Welcome back to MPB's Boot Camp for Algebra 1. I'm so glad you came back. Let's look and see what we're doing today. We're looking at Lesson 9, which is reviewing of our functions. We have looked at the multiple functions that we have, linear, quadratic, exponential. So now let's review all those and see what we can remember. Exponential functions, what we have to do with those. Quadratic functions, we have so many ways to work our quadratic functions, our linear functions, and our absolute functions that we looked at. So let's dive on in. Remember, we're staying calm. We have this. We've just got to make sure that we're reading, paying attention, and staying calm. Here we go. What is the average rate of change for the function f of x equals 3x squared minus 5 on the interval of -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1? We want to write this answer in the box. So the first thing we're going to do is pull up technology. It's our favorite. So we're going to pull up our calculator. Here we go. Okay, so in our calculator, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to plug in my equation, which was 3x squared, 3x squared, minus 5. I'm going to pull my table. So here's my table. Now it wants to know when x is -3 and x is 1. So I'm going to scroll up to where x is -3, which is 22, and x is -1, which is 2. So I'm going to take this information and let's follow what we know about finding rate of change, which is the same thing as our slope. So I'm going to plug my information in here. Remember, I had -3 was what? 22? And -1 was what? -2. So I have my x1 and y1, my x2 and my y2. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Let me grab a different color so it'd be easier for us to see. So I have -2 minus 22 over -1 minus -3. That's a calculator skill. I just plug that into my calculator, and what do you get? You get -12. Awesome. So I can plug in what my y equals, pull that table, find the numbers that my intervals start with, get those different coordinates, and then plug it into my slope, y minus 2 equals, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the same thing as finding my slope. So you want to make sure that we're remembering how to find these different parts of these equations. Good job. All right, let's look at this function. The function h of t equals -5t squared plus 10t plus 1 represents the height in meters of a diver above the water t seconds after the diver leaves the diving board. Which statements are true? Select two answer choices. The diver's highest elevation is at 10 meters. The diver's initial height is 5 meters above the water. The divers enter the water after approximately 2.1 seconds. The diver enters the water after approximately -0.1 seconds. The diver is again at the same height as the diving board at 2 seconds. Well, right off the bat, I can say you are not the answer. And why do I say that? Because I can't have a negative amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and scratch that one off so I don't even have to look at it. What I want to do is I want to pull this up so we can see those different times. So here we go. Let's pull our technology and put in what we have. Now, I can't put t in here, but we know we can put x. So let's go ahead and put that -5x squared plus 10x plus 1. So then let's look at this real close. So that's where he starts at the diving board. This is his highest height, and this is when he dives into the water. Now, he is again at the same height about right here at 2,1. So with all this information in mind, let's go back and see what it asked us. The diver's highest elevation was 10. Nope, it was 6, so that's not the answer. His initial height was 5 meters above the water. Well, no, we saw that it was 2. so that's not the answer. The diver enters the water after approximately 2.1 seconds. Well, we saw that it was 2.091, so I can say this is an answer. And then the diver is again at the same place at 2 seconds. Well, we saw that. It was at 2.1, so that is also an answer. Good job. Let's remember, behaviors of graphs of polynomial functions finding zeros of polynomial functions. Okay, so we have different behaviors. They start at positive infinity, or they start at negative infinity and go to positive infinity, or they start at 0 and only go to positive infinity, or they start at 0 and go to negative infinity. So you've got to remember all those behaviors that we learned. Select the box or boxes that correctly identify the zeros of each polynomial. Now, this is where you are going to have to remember how we're using Desmos. So I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. You're going to pull up Desmos. You're going to put the first one in and see what the zeros are. -3, -2, -1, 1, 2. You're going to do that for each one of these and see what it is. So go ahead and pull Desmos up. Go ahead and put yours in. See what you get, then come back to me. All right, so now that you've put this in Desmos, let's see if my answers go along with what you got. So for the first one, it's looking for correctly identifying the zeros for this first one. Well, it crossed at -3 and it crossed at -2. All right, let's do the next one. X squared plus x minus 6 crossed at -3, and then it crossed at a +2. So then the next one was 2x squared minus 2x minus 4, and I saw that it crossed at -1 and a +2. And then the last one, x squared plus 6x plus 9 touched at -3. Check your work. Check my work. Make sure that you're putting those correctly into Desmos. Just a slip of a positive or a minus will completely change your graph. So you want to make sure when you're putting these in Desmos, you're putting them exactly how the word problem is written. All right? All right, Cars R Us. Cars R Us car rental charges a flat fee of $24 and an initial 35 cents for every mile the car is driven. Which function models the total cost, C of x, of renting a car for x miles? Well, I have a flat fee. Just for you putting your hand on that car, you're paying $24. All right? Now, I also know that 35 cents for every mile. So obviously my miles are x, and I have 35 cents per mile. So when I see this, which one is the same as what I've written? Exactly right, letter B. Good job. Let's look at these two functions. Given f of x equals x squared plus 1 and g of x equals the absolute value of x plus 3, which value of x is a solution for the value where f of x equals g of x? This is a calculator or a Desmos skill. If you will put f of x in and then you'll put g of x in, you look to see what solution is going to be where both of them are equal. Remember, they're going to intersect when they equal. So when we put these in, what do we get? Absolutely. Here we go. It is 2. Good job. Let's look at the polynomial. Which polynomial represents the product of 2x minus 3 and x squared plus 6x minus 2? Now, we have multiple ways to do this. We have our technology, which is Desmos. We also have our double FOIL, which is our double FOIL, or we have our box method. Remember how we did these? We put the smallest one on the side, which is 2x minus 3, and we put the largest one on top. And then we multiply top to side. So I have 2x to the third. I have plus 12x squared minus 4x. I have negative 3x squared minus 18x plus 6. Then I'm going to add diagonally. So let's see what that looks like. 2x to the third. Negative 3 plus 12 is going to be a positive 9x squared. Negative 18 plus a negative 4 is going to be a negative 22x plus 6. There's my answer. So we have multiple ways to do this problem. You don't want to forget, you can always go back to the pencil paper version, okay? That's always an option, and sometimes it's the best option. So let's look at the next one. Which function shown? The best way to do this problem is put every single one of these options in and see which one is shown in our graph. Which one has its vertex at -3, -1? Which one has the y-intercept at 0, +2? When I plug this into Desmos and I look, which one do I get? Absolutely right. I get C. You want to make sure that you are looking, not only that it looks the same, but it has the same points, the vertex and your y-intercept. Good job. The graph is a solution to 3x minus 2y, which is less than 14. Same thing as we did previous question. You want to plug this into Desmos, making sure that you're putting that inequality symbol in there so it will have the shading. And which one did you get? Yes, you did. B. It's shaded up. Good job, guys. I'm so glad that you came to work with us here at Boot Camp for Algebra 1. We're almost done with our boot camp lessons, so make sure that you're coming back for our last couple of lessons. And as always, have a great day.